Good afternoon. Today I'm coming to you to talk to you about how to rebuild and clean and inspect a carburetor. Now this particular carburetor comes out of a Cat 2008 Cat Prowler XT H1. Yeah, it's I picked it up the other day. I'm sure if you haven't seen my video from earlier, I picked it up. It's been sitting in a barn for about 2 years, so it was pretty crudted up. Needed a lot of cleaning up. And now we're getting to the carburetor. The carburetor is a constant velocity CV, particular CBK, I believe it's 32, something like that. Anyways, this particular carburetor came in different model ATVs, and so you have to pay particular attention to what rebuild kit or parts you're going to need. But if you look on the body, it will have a number somewhere on the body stamped. It's like a 8 digit number, letters, and it'll tell you what rebuild kit to get. Or you can just get the individual parts. You can get them off of eBay, Amazon, I mean even some of the parts warehouses such as like Babbitt's and other stuff like that. Anyways, you can get them there. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to clean it up and possibly replace some of the parts and get it running again. But first, let's start with the tools. The tools are really not very high tech. It's screwdrivers. Make sure you get the right size one. Don't just try to get in there and try to start buggering stuff up, because a lot of the stuff inside is brass and soft metal, and if you start using the wrong screwdrivers, the wrong tools, you're going to mar them up and stuff like that, and then now you definitely going to have to change stuff. The other thing is, of course, the carburetor itself, some paper towels, and two of the most important things here. I know a lot of people like to use like really harsh chemicals and stuff. They have carburetor cleaner, stuff like that, but that stuff is some nasty stuff, and I don't have a place to put it. So what I like to use is Simple Green. Yeah, you'd be surprised at stuff how good this stuff works, and it's water-based, soluble. So you can actually, when you get done, you can actually put it down in the sink and stuff like that, and it won't damage anything. The other thing is to save yourself a lot of scrubbing trouble. A lot of scrubbing trouble is ultrasonic cleaner. Man, this thing works awesome. If you don't have one and you do carburetors, get one. It will save you all kinds of trouble, all kinds of work. It cleans everything pretty nice. Anyways, we're getting ready to start. Alright, before we start, let's talk about the carburetor a little bit. So what the parts are. Now we have this CBK constant velocity carburetor. You already know how to look up the number and parts for it. So we're going to talk about the actual outside of it. You have the vacuum diaphragm bowl, and if you look through the back, you can actually see the vacuum plunger. This goes up and down with vacuum. Then you have your fuel supply coming in to your bowl. In here is your float and various other little knickknacks we'll show you a little bit in a minute. We have the actual cable connection right here. The cable comes in through here from the foot pedal or the throttle, depends. I mean, finger throttle, depends on how you have the thing. And then you have your electric choke right here. Yeah, you're probably a lot of them have a manual choke that you can just disconnect the cable and comes out. This one has an electric one. Then you have your throttle butterfly. This one, of course, whenever it opens and closes. Let me see. Of course, this is what you're actuating when you press on the pedal, the gas pedal right here. Then the last thing right down here, this is the plunger for your prime. When it's cold and you need a little bit of extra gas and the choke is not providing, you can reach in there and prime it, get some gas going in there. It'll start you up a little bit sooner. Alright, so here we go. Then of course this little white thing, the last thing right here, is of course your fuel vent or your float vent. The bowl, float bowl vent, carburetor vent. This is of course as the fuel level goes up and down, this allows the vacuum to, the air in the bowl to equalize down here so fuel can move around. All right, let's start taking this thing apart. Now, first of all, we're going to start at the top. Oh, by the way, before we get into that, if your carburetor is all grungy and stuff like that, it's got a lot of trash, before you go ahead and open it, go ahead and dunk this thing, the ultrasonic cleaner, and let it sit for a minute or two in there and turn it on and let it go. You'll be surprised how much of this gunk from outside will come off of it. That way you're not working around with a dirty carburetor, and a bunch of that stuff won't get into any of your parts. Alright, anyways, let's start here. First, let's take the vacuum diaphragm thing up, and you'll see this little thing right here. Now around here you can see wear. You see it's a little dirty right here. There's no major thing. Make sure that you see these little rivets they don't have no sharp edges, so it can slide up and down. But the main important thing is this little needle. Make sure you run your finger alongside of it, up and down. Make sure that there's no gouges. It does wear because it goes in way down in that little hole right down there. And as it goes up and down, it actually touches. Whenever it completely closes, it actually touches there, and it could have some wear. So, look at that. Alright? Alright. Moving right on along, the next thing, we're going to open up the float bowl up and check the inside of this thing, see what it looks like. Anyways, for the sake of this video, I went ahead and removed the screws. I don't think you want to see me sit here turning the screwdriver for 5 minutes or so. Anyways, sometimes these screws are pretty hard to come out. So once again, make sure that you have the right fit screwdrivers on this thing. And I'll show you a little trick. Once we go put it back together, I'll show you a little trick how to keep that from happening again. Also, the screws. Make sure that you place them in order that you're taking them out. Because the float bowl screws are a little bit longer than the diaphragm screws. Yeah. So make sure you put them in the right spot, so that way when you put it back together, you put the right stuff in the right slots. If you put the wrong screws in the short holes, you're going to end up stripping some stuff out, and it's not good. Alright, here we go. Anyways, float bowl, fairly clean, and your float right here. What we have here is several things. Let me show you. What we have, I'm going to show you straight up. Power jet. We have the low idle jet, and then down in there we have your start jet. This carburetor has 3 jets. Some of them have 2, some of them have 3. Anyways, it just depends on who built it. Anyways, the way this thing works, the start jet is when you first start, that's what provides gas for you to start. Once the machine is running, if it needs a little bit more fuel, the next jet will pick up fuel, which is your idle or slow jet, and that will run up to about anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 RPMs. If you go higher in RPM, the start jet, the idle jet are putting in fuel. However, now you need more fuel, so what it is, the power jet will open up and allow more fuel to go down into the carburetor, down into the engine, and a little stinking gnat, and that's how it works. Alright, anyways, that's what it is. You have your start jet, idle jet, a slow jet, and your power jet. Then we have your float, as you can see. Now, you have to understand, this is upside, right now it's upside down, but if you turn it over, you see how the float moves as it fills up with fuel. It goes up, and if you look right, anyways, I can't do this thing with two hands, and I need some more help. Anyways, If you look right in here, you have your float needle shut-off valve, and as it moves, you can see it. You can barely see it move down there. Well, as the float bowl fills up with fuel, it will shut off the fuel, and it fills up. And then once you use up more fuel, you'll allow more fuel to come in, and it goes back and forth. Anyways, that's how it works. Hold up. In a second, I'll show you. All right, first we're going to remove the float and the needle assembly. A lot of times these two things come out together. You see the bowl, and if the float is leaking, you can actually see it, or you can shake it around, see if there's any fuel in there. If there's not, then it's good to go. Oh, sorry, dropped the float needle. This is what it looks like. What it is, you can look at it and make sure it's good to go by, see that little rubber thing at the tip? Make sure it's cleaned off, it doesn't have any wear marks, or all beat up. You'll know, if you see one you ever come across and it's all beat up, you'll know when it's beat up. Alright, we're going to remove the jet. We're going to start with the start jet. It's way down here in this hole. There it goes. This is your start jet. Okay? Now, some of these jets look the same, but they are not the same. Some of them are. So what it is you make sure you keep them separated so you know which one goes where. They are actually, if you had eagle eyes, you could actually see on the side, they actually have a number stamp. And that's how you tell what size it is. Now this one, I can't see right now. I have to get a magnifying glass to see it, but it is very small. I don't think you can see the actual hole going through it. It's very, very small. Okay, there's the start jet. I've already taken the liberty of going ahead and loosening these things up, which hence very good screwdrivers. What it is, make sure that the screwdriver is wide enough to cover the whole face of the nozzle, the jet. Otherwise you're going to mess it up. Now this one right here is the low idle jet. If you could actually see through it, I don't know if you can see it through it, but there, the little hole, same thing. Then we're going to go with the power jet. Now the power jet is a little different than the other because it actually seats on its own adapter. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's got some little holes right down here on the barrel right here. You got to make sure those little slots are clean, because what it does, it helps aerate as the fuel is drawn up into the venturi. It helps aerate the fuel, therefore making sure it atomizes a little bit faster and it burns better. And here is the power jet. Now the power jet has got the bigger hole in it through it. Same thing, it's got a number stamped on the side or on the top, depending on how the manufacturer puts it in there. But there's a number on there. If you need to replace it, that's how you get the number. Alright? Alright. Alright, on this particular carburetor, it's still in the factory mode, and what it is the idle air fuel adjustment mixture screw is sometimes capped off, and you will have to either drill the cap or knock it out. Either way, if you feel that you need to change it, you can change it. There is an actual part number for it to replace this. On this one right here, the knockout plug is still in there. I'm not going to mess with it because, well, we couldn't get it started earlier, so I don't know how it's running. And if once I put it back together, clean it out, and I'll put it in, and I need to do an idle air adjustment, then I'll go ahead and take it back off and drill that out. This one is going to have to be drilled out. This is not a knockout, which is actually going to be pretty much of a pain. I'm probably going to have to take it to my buddy to do that, because I'm not too good on the carburetors other than taking them apart, cleaning them out, and putting them back together the same way as they were before. So anyways, I'll have him do it for me, and if it comes to that, then I'll show you a video on that. Alright, the next part is I'm going to go drop these off in the ultrasonic cleaner and let them sit there for a minute or so and start working it. A lot of times you have to do it a couple times to completely get all the junk off, but if that's what it does, then that's what we'll do. But anyways, next one I'll be coming back and showing you. I'm sure you don't need to see how drop it in the ultrasonic cleaner. And anyways, my cleaner's inside the building over here where I got power. But anyways, hopefully everything turns out well, and I'll show you how to get it together in a minute. Anyways, this is about 10 minutes later. I've got everything cleaned up, and we're going to be putting it back together again. Anyways, this is the reverse of the removal, and just make sure, once again, make sure that you put the jets back in the right spot again. If you're not sure, look up the number of the jet that you have. Go get the book, parts manual, something, whatever you have, your maintenance manual, whatever, and it tells you what jet goes where. If you still can't, you're having a hard time, get with one of your buddies that knows how to do this stuff, and they'll help you out. A lot of times you can, on Google, YouTube, I mean, there are several sources you can go, and it'll help you out with this. Anyways, the other thing I forgot to tell you is, on this jet, on this flow bowl needle, I'm not sure if you can see it very well. You'll see it's got this little edges on it, as you can see right there, so it looks like a little wagon wheel looking thing. Anyways, make sure that on the side right there, these little sides right here, it doesn't have any sharp edges. Make sure it's nice and smooth, because what it is this what stays in that slot right there, and it slides up and down, and you don't want this thing to bind up while it's trying to work and do its job. If it binds up, you're going to have if it binds up on the open side, you're going to have fuel everywhere. If it binds up on you on the closed side, guess what? You're never going to get fuel, and we don't want that to happen. Alright? Anyways, we're getting ready to put it back together here in a second. Alright, here we go. We're putting it back together. Got this little pin that goes in the thing. It actually is not pressing there. You just press it with your hand and it slides in and out. It's actually loose. Anyways, the next thing is the jets. We're going to put the start jet. Just drop it in the slot. Get your appropriate screwdriver. You do not tighten these with man torque. You just snug it. Then we have your low idle jet. Then we have a power jet. See how the whole body's turning? Do not use a screwdriver to tighten up the body. And there it is. It's in. Now most of it's on. So anyways, the next thing is a float bowl. Once again, the float bowl only goes in one way. Before you do all that, make sure that this O-ring right here is not tore up. Make sure it's still got some edge to it, so that way it'll seal. Most of the time you can reuse these several times. This one's still good to go. If you want to check, you can get a straight edge, go across, make sure it's still got a little hump in the center. If you don't have a hump on the center anymore, that means it's flat. Replace it. This one's still good. So what we're going to do is put it back together again. And once again, make sure it's clean, no trash in there. There we go. Okay, and the next, we're going to put the float bowl back together again, and everything should start going back together again. Anyways, remember I was telling you I was going to show you a little trick. Well, the little trick is this stuff right here, anti-seize compound. What it is you take your screws that you're going to put back in and just dab just a tad on the threads. Not enough to get stuff everywhere, but just enough to coat the threads and put the screws back in. This will coat all the threads, and next time if you have to take it apart, guess what? It comes off easy. No matter if you over torque it or under torque it, whatever, it's going to be pretty easy to come out. Again, do not over torque. That's bad. Do not under torque. That's also bad. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the vacuum diaphragm plunger back in. This will only go in one way. If you look at the plunger itself, it's actually off-centered. So you can't mess this thing up. It only goes in one way, and it goes in all the way. Do not force it. It should drop in easy. If it doesn't drop in, pull it back out until it lines up. What it is, this needle has to line up with remember the power jet down the bottom? Well, it's got to line up with that slot down there. So what it is, just drop it in slowly. If it starts binding up, stop, pull it back out, and usually, because it's actually spring loaded, so it actually will line up by itself. So it shouldn't be that hard. Anyway, here we go. So, see that? It won't fit because it's going in backwards. Anyway, so if you turn it around, see that? Once again, if it binds up, stop, turn around, do it again. It should fall right in by itself. Same thing again with the screws. Just dab on a little bit of anti-seize when you put them back in. It should save you a lot of trouble now. So anyways, that is how you disassemble, clean, and inspect the carburetor for a 2008 Arctic Cat Prowler XT. Hopefully you see this whole video before you actually start doing it. So I have to enter this. You're working with chemicals, gasoline, cleaners, and this anti-seize lubricant stuff over here. So be safe. Wear eye protection if you have to. If you're going to spray anything, wear eye protection. If there's any tendency that something's going to splash up in your face, wear eye protection. Wear gloves if you're allergic to chemicals and stuff like that, because some of this stuff is like nasty, especially gasoline. Also on your unit over there, like mine over here, when you take the carburetor off, make sure you cover up the openings, because you know insects like to get in just about any kind of opening and make a home. So, and then if you go put the carburetor back in, if you don't see like a bee nest or something like that, you're gonna suck it up in your unit there. Gasoline, you're gonna have an open line. Make sure that you cap that off, and a lot of times you have to disconnect your battery. Be safe. Hope to see you out in the trails one day, and if you do happen to be out there and see me, go ahead and stop, say hi. I'll be more than happy to talk to you. Hope this helps you, and happy trail.